is the key to this thing. All right? So it says, if any man does what lacks wisdom. So you might not know what is stopping the thing. Are you following what I'm saying here? You are believing, you are confessing, you are doing that, you are doing that. You don't know what actually, he says, so shall the knowledge of wisdom be. Your expectation shall not be cut off. You say you will find out. So what God does is, he says, let's go on a test drive. And when we go on the test drive, and you come out to some obstacle is not working right, then he says, I will give you some wisdom here. Then you know something, and then you know something, and then you know something, and then you come to a full understanding, and then you become complete and entire, all right? And then he says, at that point, then manifestation begins. So James now wants to tell us, he says, ask for this wisdom, all right, but don't give up, all right? He says this here, ask in faith. In verse 6, let him ask in faith, nothing wavering. For he that wavereth is like, which means please hold fast that confession, rejoice in it. Don't waver here. Don't think that God did not answer your prayer. That it's a wisdom issue, not that God is unfaithful. So hold fast, because you cannot be taught right if you think the fundamental problem is that God didn't grant. Said, hold fast to this, right? But start asking for wisdom, right, on this journey here. And it says, let not no man think he shall receive anything of the Lord. Now, because let me quickly go to verse 12. It said, blessed is the man that endureth temptation, which means goes through that endurance test. For when he is tried, now the word tried is different from the word temptation. The word tried means when he is tested, which means when they have approved that he is tested and approved, all right, he shall receive a crown. In other words, after they've stamped, tested, and approved, then he will get the crown of life, which the Lord has promised to them that love him. Then it goes on in verse 13. It says, but let no man say when he's tempted, I'm tempted of God, for God cannot be tempted with evil, neither tempted he any man. Now I want you to get what James is saying here. Then it goes on in 14 and says, but every man is tempted when he's drawn away of his own lust and enticed. And then he says, when that lust is conceived, it bringeth forth sin, and when sin is finished, it bringeth forth death. Verse 16, do not err, my beloved brethren. Every good and perfect gift coming from above comes from the Father of lights. So he says, look, don't err during this test, all right? Don't, when you're going through that endurance test, don't err. Don't let lust means the diseased condition of the soul that want to correct. Don't let it become the dominant factor that you make decisions, all right, that takes you off course. Right? It says every good and perfect gift comes from the Father, and it comes in the form of light. Now he says, he talks about this here, that you're going through a test, you're going to be approved. Now let's look at what wisdom is saying. Now remember all this. Go to Proverbs 4 and verse 1. Let's look at what wisdom is saying here. Then we get it. Proverbs 4. Hear ye children the instruction of your father, and attend to know understanding. He says, for I give you good doctrine, forsake ye not my law. Verse 3, for I was my father's son, tender and only beloved in the sight of my mother. Verse 4, he taught me also and said, let thine heart retain my words, keep my commandments and live. He goes on, get wisdom, get understanding, forget it not, neither decline from the words of my mouth. Forsake her not, and she shall preserve thee. Love her, and she shall keep thee. Verse 7. Wisdom is the principal thing. Get wisdom, and with all thy getting, get understanding, which of that angel is bringing. Exalt her, and she shall promote thee. She shall bring thee to honor when thou dost embrace her. Verse 9. She shall give to your head an ornament of grace, and a crown of glory, or what James called the crown of life, shall she deliver unto thee. So he says, wisdom will give you that crown of life or crown of glory. Verse 10, it tells us, hear my son and receive my saints, and your years of your life shall be many. Verse 11, for I have taught thee in the way of wisdom, I have led thee in the right path. Verse 12, when thou goest, thy steps shall not be straitened. When thou runnest, thou shalt not stumble. Verse 13, take hold of instruction, let her not go keep her, for she is thy life. Verse 14, enter not into the path of the wicked, which means Satan is trying to, during that endurance test, that you go, not the way of wisdom, you try to solve the issue using another method. Go not in the way of evil men. Verse 15, Avoid it, pass not by it, turn from it, pass away. Verse 16, for they sleep not except they have done mischief, and their sleep is taken away from them until they cause some to fall. Verse 17, for they eat the bread of wickedness and drink the wine of violence. And verse 18, but the path of the just is as a light that shineth brighter and brighter. So he's saying if you're going on this path of wisdom, it shines brighter and brighter. All right, more light is coming in. But he says there's a temptation there for you to deviate off course. So a person is believing God, just like Abraham and Sarah. When the endurance test started, Sarah said deviated off course. And Abraham went, all right, and that's why it means when a man does that, let him not say he's doing it by God. He went off course and erred, and then created a bigger problem there. It says a man is going, all right, to build something, and he looks at it and is giving options. Your business can grow if you change certain things. These things don't deal with, which is things that will soil your integrity, all right, reduce the quality of the product, but still says like this. Right? And none of that. It says, do not err. It says the problem is a wisdom problem. Ask for wisdom there. If you are having difficulties and options are being given to you, it says, don't err into this way. Ask for wisdom. Wisdom will give you that crown of life. Ask for instructions. Like we have said, they didn't know that it was the toilet. Something is responsible for this kind of result. Right? So ask for that. Ask for it. It is that kind of insight that the Holy Ghost says, I want to give to you, that is rare and that is uncommon, that will be responsible for producing. But during that test, there's the temptation to go off course into another way. It says, but stay on the path of wisdom. So he begins to tell us this, that stay on that path of wisdom. Every good and perfect gift comes from above, comes down from the Father who gives it in the form of light. It says in verse 19, wherefore, my beloved brethren, that is when you are going through the test. He said, lesson number 1. He said, this is the first thing wisdom wants to correct. Lesson number 1, be slow to speak. Be slow, all right, to anger, but be quick to hear. Now, you three gentlemen, 1, 2, 3, please come on. Come, just stand here. I want to show you something. All right, now that's why I brought this Coke bottle. No, come here. Okay, stand this way. That's why I want to drink Coke. All right, so I don't drink Coke. All right, now so stand here. So they're standing from me. I just want to show you when you speak hastily. Okay, so I'm shaking this tribulation now. I'm shaking this Coke bottle. Are you the Liverpool guy? I remember you. Congrats, we won. Okay. All right. Now I'm shaking this. I'm shaking. Now, this is tribulation now. Tribulation is shaking. Now, if I put this here, shake it, and I want to open it, they move back. Because it's going to scatter. Won't it? So when the tribulation is going on, it says don't talk until it settles. Because if you talk prematurely, you are going to scatter everything. Are you from saying here? And the words that you say are going to cause many people to move back away from you that were supposed to help you. You can go and see that. Now I'm going to show you that. All right? I'll show you that's what he went on to say. I'll show you in James 3. That's what he was talking about when he said, all right, the tongue is like that. So he says, be slow to speak. Be quick to hear. That is, don't talk until you have heard. Right? Don't say anything until God has given you his own information. Just let everything calm down. Right? That many people have lost things that they have prayed about, that God heard and was bringing it to them. And when there was tribulation, they were so hasty in speech and spoke out of the pain of what was going on, that many people that were supposed to help them heard those words and just stepped back. All right? Which means they responded in a certain way and people just stepped back there. So it says, be slow to wrath, For the anger of man worketh not the righteousness of God. Then he says, lay apart all superfluity of naughtiness and receive with meekness the engrafted word of God. And says, be ye doers of the word and not hearers only, all right, deceiving your own selves. For if a man be a hearer and not a doer, is like a man that beheld his natural face, and then went and then forgot what manner of man he was. But whoso looketh in the perfect law of liberty and continueth therein. So it tells us, all right, watch the way you respond with words. I'll still come back to that. But then the second thing it tells us is this. It says, keep your eyes, don't be a forgetful hearer. What the scriptures that brought that initial faith, keep your eyes on them throughout the entire process. Because if you take your eyes off those scriptures, it says you are going to forget what manner of man that you are. So keep your eyes there and continuously look at, right, what God is saying into you in his word. Fix your eyes. That's why when we get to Proverbs, that same chapter 4, go to Proverbs 4 and verse 19. Wisdom is still giving instruction. That's where James got it from. All right, it says the way of the wicked is as dark